Shalom. Welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabados of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service, jbiztechphilly.com, and as you can see now, columnist for the Jewish Press.
Yeah, Rabbi, I have a column in there called Albany Beat, where I talk about how government relates to the Jewish community or doesn't, as the case may be. So anyway, with us today is one of my favorite folks around the Albany area, Rich Honen. He's with the Phillips Lytle law firm. He's the Albany office leader. And so welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that says a lot of things. Mark knows everybody in Albany. So,
but I mean, one of the things that one of the areas that I got to know you that our lives crossed was at Temple Israel when you were. You're active in Temple Israel, or
I'm not. I think Cantor Marx, if he heard me say I was active, would probably say I was.
Well, every rabbi has to say no. You don't come 3 times a day.
But I enjoy going. I grew up in a culturally Jewish but non-observant family, and so when my children went to Hebrew Academy, and I kind of learned along the way with them, and we learned through Temple Israel.
That's excellent. I always say that even with all the, if people say, well, I don't know much. I says, learn with your children. Your children are going to start off at square one, so do their homework with them, and you can learn the observing. So that's good. You learn with your children over here.
Yes.
So now, Phillips Lytle, the firm focuses on corporate finance and venture capital law and complex commercial litigation?
Yeah, well, the firm does everything.
Okay, but that's what you focus on in the firm.
Focus, and I run our venture capital group. Venture capital being working with startup companies, working with entrepreneurs, working with investors, working with universities, all the people who are involved in the innovation process.
So why, now, is it my perception or is it reality that that pretty much all of the venture capital goes towards brick and mortar businesses and not something that might be over the air, let's say, or something that you can't physically hold on to?
No, I would actually say, kind of in line with some of your other guests, I would actually say most of the government money goes to brick and mortar traditional businesses.
Right.
So when people are building buildings, a lot of that is with government money. Venture capital money usually is with more technical, high-tech businesses, things more in the air, software, composites, energy storage, all the things you hear about.
Because I had been told a couple of times that the reason the brick and mortar investments are more secure is because you have something to reclaim if the business doesn't take off. And, whereas if you talk about software or whatever, you don't have very much to claim to get back.
That's true. Clearly, a building is your most traditional, form of investment, although there's some elements of risk. Venture capital is more, a high-risk investment where you're really placing your money on the skills of the entrepreneur, the character of the person actually running the business, as well as the technology.
You make a shidduch, we say in Hebrew a match, meaning say, hey, I want to invest, let's say $1 million, whatever, throw out a number. But is it your law firm that's investing, or is it you're just getting some entrepreneur that wants to, hey, give me a startup business, and you say, hey, you want a big percentage of a new business?
More the latter. And usually we know lots of entrepreneurs, we know lots of investors. Usually by the time they've gotten to us, the entrepreneur has an idea and may even have identified an investor, and they just want to figure out, how do we do this? How does this work?
The legalities.
And the business structure as well. Yeah.
Now, most people can go down, everyone can go down to the Department of State and create a corporation for
absolutely.
$150,
or do it online, which actually I advise people to do.
And if they went to you to create the corporation, how much would that be?
More, but not much more. But I usually
that's not where you make your bread and butter.
No, and as I said, I usually I advise people to make use of the resources. There's lots of free resources like the Department of State. There's online. There's LegalZoom that everybody's heard about, and I always advise people to make the best use of those resources and to use us as a resource when our skills dictate.
Okay, so now you're also very much involved with the economic development climate in the Capital District. So tell us a little bit about that and why that's attractive to you. I mean, I think it's attractive to you more than a potential business, more than you're going to increase business for
Oh,
yourself.
sure.
I mean, it's as a personal.
Yeah,
you seem to
absolutely.
really enjoy being a part of those.
I do. It's and I know you had Mike Hickey on, for example, some shows back, and he's another person very involved with the entire what we call the entrepreneurial ecosystem of upstate New York. It's interesting to me because first, as a business person, a rising tide lifts all boats. So the more business that's going on in an area, the better for us, and also the better a community it is, in which to live. More specifically, the amount of economic activity that is directed towards high tech and entrepreneurial ventures here in the Capital District is a high amount. It's
what
more
is
so
really
other
the
places.
temperature, you say, the economic outlook of the Capital District? Obviously, there's nanotech that's going to
Sure.
help everything, but just maybe without that, I mean, the man in the street or something wants to start his own business, or just the business climate in Albany.
Well, it's quite good. It's and it depends obviously on the type of business, but leaving out nanotechnology, chip fabrication, and leaving out government, which is the largest employer in
We're left with
Albany County,
education, higher education.
and higher education. But there's lots of businesses that are built around that. So certainly here in the Capital Region, software development, software programming is very big. Enterprise software, the kind of software that would run your business, that would plan meetings for you, that would keep track of large projects. That's very big. The other thing we see a lot about is energy storage, what you and I would call batteries. Okay, but except now batteries can be made out of paper. Batteries can be the batteries can be printed off of a printer. Batteries are used not only for your phone or for your flashlight, but you would have a battery for your building, for example, so that you could store up energy during the low periods and then run off the battery during the high periods. And there's all software and hardware that is involved with that. So you'll see a lot of that.
So you have to keep up with really I see the technology. I mean, you're a lawyer, but on the other hand, because you have to understand what's a boondoggle, you're full of baloney, get lost, or hey, you have a legitimate new invention here, and it's worth
Very
investing
much.
in. So you got to keep up with the science also.
As well, I use the same, Rabbi. I use the same ideas I use with my children to learn about Judaism. Is the way I use my entrepreneurs to learn about technology. And so I think you have to be open in saying, I understand this as a lawyer, and I understand a lot of the technology, but you have to. They will explain things to you. I have a physics book that sits on my desk, and every once in a while I have to look up things,
Terminology and
but,
stuff.
Yeah, and usually the entrepreneurs, especially the technical ones, are very patient in explaining, right on down to the elemental level, and that's what makes it fun.
But when an entrepreneur comes to you, do they have a business plan?
Well, sometimes they do.
And in the business plan, don't they have to I define the technical words that are within the business plan? Then they put the words sort of like in a glossary in the back.
Yes,
so that
they do,
people
but
can
that's
understand what they're reading.
yes. And so what you're referring to is there's usually a written. We like them to have a written business plan because one helps you organize your thoughts and also tells you where where they think the market's going. But often in the business plan, and this is one of the things you were talking earlier about being matchmakers, in addition to kind of making them understand the language of money and investing, we also make entrepreneurs understand how to talk to regular people. So they might, in their business plan, have 2 paragraphs of language that the 3 of us could look at for an hour and not know what it means. And so we help them kind of translate that so that regular people like us can understand.
I know someone who's very, very intelligent told me he had a friend who's super intelligent. And he was, he was a techie and didn't know how to talk to anybody, and no one would invest with him because like that he couldn't even come maybe to a person like you. I don't even know who the person is, but he told me his story, and he really was very, very depressed because he was super intelligent and he could make an invention, but he couldn't sell it. That would be I guess maybe you then turn around, can you sell it? I mean, if someone just,
Well, we can
they're
help
not
them.
articulate or quiet, I mean, they're brains, but
Right.
that doesn't mean you can be a teacher or explain it to people or be a salesman either.
That's true. I think what we help them do is translate it. And I think a lot of people, either through a lot of times, like most things in life, maybe through insecurity, maybe through a little lack of confidence, either feel that they need to speak at a higher level than their audience is prepared for, or a lower level. And I think one of the things we say a lot is, I'll sit in a meeting with really smart people and say, I didn't get that. Take a step back. And once you say that, everybody else around the room says, I'm glad you said that, because I didn't get it either. And it makes people, gives people more confidence to explain things and to explain, what their assumptions are.
Excellent. Yeah, I've been in meetings also, and I don't know what you're talking about. And listen, I'm as intelligent. Next, I'm not a techie or a
right.
Well, I always get the people who I've met who only want to speak their own language. There's particular language for their business. Is that they say, why can't all these other people who think they're so smart, understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And they always look at the other person and saying, why they seem so stupid, why can't they understand me?
Right.
What's going on? They get frustrated instead of looking for a solution. Well, is one of your favorite TV shows Shark Tank?
Yes,
You should be on it. What do you mean?
I spend much of my day doing that. I probably look at 5, 10, 15 business plans a week.
Couldn't we have a local Shark Tank show here?
We do. My answer to you would be we do. I think it would be great to have a real one on TV. But every week, every day in the capital region, there are people presenting business plans to small groups, 2, 3, 4 people, going through the exact same iterations that you see in Shark Tank. It happens at our universities. It happens at our economic development places. It happens in law firms.
But they're going to maybe one individual or 2 individuals. Couldn't we have a panel of people who are interested in investing, have the money to invest, and then they're all looking, we have they have 5 investors on the Shark Tank, and then someone comes in and does a presentation.
Sure.
I mean, as opposed to someone, that would make it easier for someone who has a product that they want to invest in, because then they're told. I've been to some meetings with people, and when I had a project to pitch, and you're never told why they wouldn't invest in your product. They're told, you just said no, or they avoid your phone calls afterwards or whatever. It's never that give and take of why wouldn't you invest? Just tell me, make it better. Help me make it better.
I will say we actually, yes, that's an excellent idea. And I will say there's a number of those programs already in place. Again, we were talking about Mike Hickey, who's now with the Center for Economic Growth. The CEG, along with the Severino Center at RPI, has a great program called the Venture B Plan, where once a month or once a quarter, entrepreneurs will present in a Shark Tank-like environment. It'll be open to the public. They'll have 3 or 4 investors. They will present their plan to the investors, and there'll be an audience watching. And they not only do the entrepreneurs get feedback, but the people watching, who are would-be entrepreneurs, learn the things that you were talking about. What should I say? What should I not say? What do people want to hear? It's a very creative and iterative process.
I had never heard that was going on. So you'll have to send me an email.
Well, you know what? That's a failure on the part of our ecosystem, because I know you, and I know you're in the entrepreneurial community, and that is word that we should work harder to get out.
It's good to hear there's so many new ideas out there. This is Albany. It's obviously not a major metropolitan area, and you say 5, 10, 15 new ideas a week come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
Yeah, no.
And the scope of the ideas from the simplest widgets to incredibly complex nanocomposites and the industries. You'd be amazed at how many ideas surround, believe it or not, kids' sports these days. So you hear about all the, and I'm one of them. The soccer moms, soccer dads, hockey.
Give me an example.
So an example would be when your son or daughter joins a travel team. You pay money, and there's usually a parent who's in charge of collecting money for tournaments and things like that. There's at least 3 or 4 companies around Albany that are doing software where each parent can hook their bank account to that mom's bank account and send the $3.50 for the for each tournament. There's software that keeps track of tournaments. There's software that helps kids work out. It just that's just one example that puts there. Right now, my son plays travel soccer, and whenever there's a practice, there's software that sends me an email saying, "Don't forget, your practice is at 7 o'clock." So
It's really
it's
incredible,
amazing.
many ideas.
Yeah,
But
amazing.
what percentage would you say that, like I say, they're full of baloney, you don't know what you're talking about, it'll never work, it'll never fly, or, that come into you?
Well,
Or how many, the positive side, how many are good ideas? I could
lots
ask
of them
that
are good,
also
and
over
the
here.
reason I was hesitating is the more I do this, the less I'm going to use this word, the less arrogant I get about what I think about a company, because these are the examples I always give. If 20 years ago I had come to you and I said, I have this great idea for a business, and you say, great, Rich, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to sell water. I'm going to put water in a bottle, I'm going to sell it for $1. You would say, that, you're a nice guy, but that's crazy, right? And so what is it, a $9 billion industry right now? The other example I give is, again, if 20, 30 years ago I came to you and I said, I'm going to start a coffee shop, but instead of the coffee costing 35 cents and taking 10 seconds, the coffee is going to cost $7 and take 5 minutes to make. You'd say, why would anyone do that? So Rabbi, I've become more open, I'll say, into what I think could work. I think what you see more of is people who have good ideas but just have not worked hard enough at connecting the dots between the concept and truly the reality, and who's really going to buy it. And that's where I think we try and help them translate.
And I don't
that.
mean this as a pun, but honing the message.
Yes.
Right?
You're not the first to have,
No,
to have made that
that's
pun.
what you're.
Yes.
But that's what is important, because
Yeah.
you have to be direct, and a lot of people are very scattered with their message when they do a presentation.
That's exactly right. I think one of the I always think about just thinking in a linear way, and that's one of the things that's kind of helped me, be able to advise people.
Well,
It's
you
really
always have
nice
these
because
stories, yeah.
I'm
You
sorry.
always have these stories of, like the Beatles just comes to my mind. One record company, lousy, and then, and they're, like you say, a multi-billion
Right.
dollar
So do you
enterprise.
personally invest in any
I have,
businesses? You
sure,
have.
I have. Not as much as you would think.
No.
And the reason I say that is because I'm making decisions on behalf of my firm to invest a lot of our time, because a lot of times, and most of the time, an entrepreneur comes to you and says, well, I don't have $25,000 to pay you. And so you have to make a decision as to investing your time and your partner's time, and in the hopes of a return. So to that extent, we're investing every day. And luckily my
No,
firm...
but you personally.
Yeah,
like,
no, I understand.
When
that.
do you have to consult with the missus in order to invest personally?
I really haven't invested. Again, my investment is the time, but I've invested in some of our startup companies,
Okay.
and there's groups all over here locally for people who are interested in investing and putting together those Shark Tank like presentations.
Well, I remember I went to the Desmond a couple of times where they had these competitions and they announced winners.
Sure,
I know
I ran that. That was the Smart Start Venture Forum, and we did that for many years.
And it doesn't happen anymore.
No, because and the reason is because that kind of graduated to the point where there's so many of those. There's a big business plan competition at College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering. There's big ones at a lot of throughout New York State. That's become ubiquitous.
Upstate
absolutely. The Upstate Venture Association of New York.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes. And where people will come. They have monthly meetings, and entrepreneurs get 1 minute to stand up and make their pitch. And if you're interested, then you go.
1 minute, you can.
Well,
The thing is that, how can you? pick
Oh, I did
something?
that
Really,
once.
in
Oh,
1
yeah.
minute?
Well, but think,
I practiced a long
social
time.
scientists will tell you that in any human relationship, you can tell within a minute or two whether there is a connection, right?
interesting.
There's a phrase
and
called-
I think it's the same
Yeah, you
same
can see
idea.
if there's
There-
something.
there's
Yeah, it's something to talk more about.
There's a phrase called the 30-second elevator pitch.
Yes.
And that's what that's based on, the 1 minute
Yeah.
presentation. It's based on that 30-second elevator pitch. So, it started out, if you happen to see someone that you couldn't get an appointment with in the elevator and you got his ear,
Right.
you got 30 seconds before he gets off the elevator, that's
There's a local venture capital fund, so this is a fund, where they make big, $1 million investments, and they sponsor an event where they take a bunch of entrepreneurs and a bunch of investors to Hunter Mountain, and the entrepreneurs wear a red bib, and the investors wear a green bib, and they get on the ski lift together, and you have the amount of time that it takes for the ski lift to get from the bottom of the mountain to the top for each entrepreneur to try and convince the investor next to them that they want to hear more about.
Isn't that funny?
Their investment.
I would definitely arrange for that ski lift to break and be stuck up there.
That's Mark's way of doing it.
That would be my way of getting more time.
Shoot his ear off for a half hour. All right, get me off of here already. Get me away from this guy.
You want a captive audience, and but I remember one of those competitions at the Desmond where there was a guy with a certain type of fire extinguisher that won.
Yeah.
And he's taken off where that
Yeah.
business is really big now.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think that was Bullex, actually.
Yes.
The local company, and I believe they actually brought it, I believe, to an exit where they sold to a larger company. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. And that was Ryan O'Donnell, and he worked there. Simon Ballant works there now, or did.
Is that John O'Donnell, the CEO of Albany Airport?
Of the airport, yeah.
That's his son.
Yes,
Okay.
but that perfect example. He was a volunteer firefighter, saw a need for basically a training device, and developed it, and went ahead and sold it.
No, I remember that. And so that's the thing with every business plan. People always ask, well, what's your exit strategy? And when I had a business plan, I didn't want to give up the business. I didn't want to sell it. It was my baby. Right. It was something that I would never want to sell. Here I am developing this new, and everyone would say, look, you're going to sell it eventually. You're going to want to sell it. What's your exit strategy? I'm like, no, you don't understand me. And now I see that you need an exit strategy. Like you were saying, from 20 years ago, your personality changed.
Right.
I sort of changed in that way also.
Well, and that's for those type of businesses. And there's plenty of businesses that we start that are not investor type businesses. They're what we call. They call them lifestyle businesses. What it really means is a business that you want to run and you want to work at and make money at, for the rest of your life. Like a law firm or accounting firm or a services business.
Mm-hmm. So when you look at Shark Tank, and you see that these people are asking, $100,000 for 10% of their company. I was always told, look, we're going to invest, we're going to take 80% of your company, and would you rather own 20% of something or 100% of nothing?
Yeah,
and I don't see that at Shark Tank.
No, and Shark Tank, look, there's some artificiality to it just because of obviously the decision-making process, and I think they already have kind of the parameters of this is how much money we're going to give generally for this much in the investment. I'd quarrel with your 80-20. I would always advise an entrepreneur, certainly after her or his first round of investment, to still be in control of.
Well, I'll tell you later who said it to me, but there's been a few people.
But I will agree that it is better to own a smaller percentage of something valuable than 100% of something that's not going anywhere.
Exactly, that's the point they were trying to make with me.
Right.
And so you got to learn. When you're young, you don't look ahead always, and you don't always see the value of this. And a lot of that is getting the hammer and the chisel and banging banging it into your head.
And I think the secret there is, I just said something that you don't need a lawyer to tell you. 50% of something that's worth a lot of money is worth more than 100% of something that's worth nothing. And I think one of the things that we learn along the way is all these things that we think are these really important complex business concepts are just really, a lot of them are common sense. A lot of them are things that you would bring to bear in any human relationship. And our job is just to make people understand that. This is not necessarily brain surgery.
Now, when you were talking about batteries before,
Yeah.
were you talking about Enermat Technologies?
I was not talking about them specifically, but
Okay.
that's a great company. They have great technology, great, smart, young entrepreneurs. Yeah, excellent.
It looks like foreigners, or are they from?
I think, yeah, they're both RPI. I think they both have their doctorates from RPI.
Right.
They both came from other places.
They're from India or something, I guess. Yeah. So that's
Two very smart kids.
Yeah,
I call them kids. They're
that's
probably
their
in their
kids,
late 20s or early 30s.
But do you have a lot of immigrants? Because they're very aggressive. They come to America. I mean, you always see the downplay on immigrants. Oh, they want our welfare. But a lot of them have a lot of brains. And hey, I could really make it in America if, because more than the third world countries, I can make my fortune here and take my ideas to America.
I think that's part of it. I also think that in other countries, the people who are highly educated are very strong on the technology side, on the technical side. One of the things I fear about our secondary education system is, our higher education system is, we seem to be getting away from technology and more towards kind of the squishier. The kind of the squishier majors,
liberal.
and so a lot of the technology is being developed in places other than the United States, and then those developers come here because of the resources and the support that they get. Yeah, I would agree with you.
What's the Biz Lab?
Oh, New York Biz Lab. That's
Yeah.
another great incubator that we have here. That's in Schenectady.
Yeah.
It's run by the folks at TransFinder. Tony Civitello and he runs that with Rick DeRico, who used to be with the Business Review. They have at least, I think they have 3. They have some terrific companies there now. I think they have 3 of them, and it's an incubator. It's a place where people get together. Entrepreneurs work on their businesses, but also get to interact and learn from each other.
And have you've been recognized for your entrepreneurship and for helping people, get further along in their lives?
Well, it's just something I have an interest in. It's one of the areas of law that's creative rather than destructive, and so it's a fun thing to do. And I think it's like, as you know, if you do something long enough, at some point, people will start to remember that you do it.
So what's the message out there that you have for young entrepreneurs?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I always tell them, the first line. I really like the first line of Dr. Spock's book on baby and child care that came out in the 40s,
Yeah.
right? That everybody still reads. The first line of that says, "Relax. You know more than you think you do." And this, which was really, to say something in the late 40s, to say that you, as parents to be, know more than your doctors, or as much. That was an astounding concept. And what I tell entrepreneurs is, you know more. You know more about this than you think you do. Have the confidence, go out and try, and if you don't succeed the first time, keep trying.
And you always hear these stories, I failed 10 times and, it didn't work. I mean, these are just loads of stories. But then after the 100th time, I finally found I guess you have to be pushy and you have to have a good idea, but...
And you have to be patient.
Yeah.
Do you help people write their business plan?
Yeah. I will at this stage in my career. What I'll do is I'll advise them on what should be in there. I'll look through them and tell them. The one thing I will tell people is they say, I don't need a business plan.
No.
Everybody needs a business
You do.
plan.
It's the vision. It's the mission. It's everything that you.
If you're not gonna take the time to articulate
Yeah.
what you want to do, it's going to be hard to find people who want to
Right.
get involved with you.
Just because you sketch something on a napkin in a design,
Right.
and those stories that you hear about, but those are astronomical odds, for getting something like that
Mark,
funded.
Tom, you have one more question?
Yeah, who would you send someone to if they wanted to write a business plan? Who? if they
Right.
needed
Well,
help writing a
there's,
business plan.
You know,
who's-
there's resources. I know the University of all of the local universities have. The University of Albany has a program.
They will tell you how to write the business plan, but they don't have anyone there who will sit down with you and actually craft the language.
Well, my understanding is they will. There's maybe not them, but I know that they have their students available to help do that. I would again, University of Albany, RPI, Siena College. There's a lot of those resources, and of course, a lot of the lawyers and service providers in town. We can usually send you to
Okay.
the place.
Very good. Listen, Rich, you're doing good work over here, helping the economy, helping young people. So, success in what you're doing,
Yeah,
and
much
continue
continued
with
success.
and do it with good health.
Thank you so much.
Okay.